And good morning. I've been out of bed very close to 2 hours already. I mean, out of bed. I was awake for close to an hour before I got up, but I got up actually before 3 o'clock. Interesting. The title that I've selected for today is Reprogramming the Hologram. And here's my blurb. Yesterday was interesting. Throughout most of the morning, I was in an amazing place spiritually and emotionally. Then, late morning, I received the first message of 3 that impacted my mood in the opposite direction. Then, late afternoon, a video was posted on my Facebook wall that I began listening to before my meeting, and which I finished afterwards before going to sleep. That video was nearly 2 hours long, called Michael Talbot, Holographic Universe. And I have the link provided. This helped me refocus, and this morning I realized that I have been given help in reprogramming my hologram. Perhaps some or many of you could benefit from this as well. I was, after my video yesterday, I did go back and lay down for a while. Got maybe another hour and a half possibly of sleep. But then I went into meditation at some point late in the morning. And it was a state of meditation that I don't get in most of the time. In fact, I don't know that I've ever actually been in that exact state. It was almost as if I was in a dream state. I mean, that's what it seemed like, except I wasn't asleep. But I actually went into, I don't know if it's theta waves or I don't know what words to use to describe it. But I was in a place where I was doing Ho'oponopono. I was actually taking responsibility for people in my world, both ones that I know personally and ones that I don't know really at all, except as public figures. But the feeling that I was having was that I wasn't just saying words. It was like real. I mean, it felt more than just an intellectual practice, an intellectual ritual or something of saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. It was more than that. I felt it. I felt the connection. And I don't know how else to describe it. That's just what I felt. But then I got a call where my meditation time was totally interrupted, in which I was told that the class that meets here on Tuesday nights is no longer going to meet here. There are people that don't want to meet here, and so to accommodate those people, the class is being moved to another location. And that upset me, and I was not able to get back into the meditative state that I had been in prior to the phone call, because once again, here's another example of people not understanding and making a judgment against me that I felt and feel is totally unfair, because people are not willing to listen. We as humans jump to conclusions about other people, oftentimes without even giving them an opportunity to express their point of view and their side of it. It happens all the time. I've done it to others, I'm sure, and others have done it to me. We've played this game where we program ourselves to believe something about somebody or a situation or whatever, and we think it's true. And then I had another phone call um, with another friend, um, and the end of that conversation also ended uh, with a very disappointing thing. I was basically, this may not be the perspective of the other individual. It's my perspective. But my perspective was, I was being told, Ron, listen to your friends. Let go of your house. You know, just release it. If they're trying to take your house, release it. And I said, I cannot accept that. That is wrong. And again, there's so many people that say there's nothing wrong. There's no right or wrong, okay? And I was in that place. And then I got an email message from someone, which was also very disappointing. And it was around that same time that I did not respond to the email. I still have not. But I got this, I noticed this thing on my Facebook wall with Michael Talbot, and I began listening to it up until I had to, get ready for people to arrive at the meeting last night. And when I came back to the computer, I continued listening. It was almost 2 hours long, and I listened to maybe a half an hour prior to the meeting, approximately. I don't know the exact amount. But wow, one of the things that he talked about is that Michael Talbot's belief is that there's no such thing as reality. or there's no such thing as the world. The world is a consensus reality, basically. It's something that we have agreed together to experience. But there's no reality to the reality. It's something that we've made up. It's a play that we've written. And he uses many illustrations in the teaching that he's giving. One of them is Jansenism, a man named Cornelius Jansen who was in France, and his religious sect in the 17th, 18th century, I believe. Is that what I read? I believe it was the 17th, 18th century. Was very, very impactful in that part of Europe, northern Italy and France and the lowlands. I guess that means the Netherlands and Belgium and stuff like that. In any case, they were being persecuted by the church because they were heretics. They thought for themselves. And they developed a belief that nothing could hurt them. And nothing could. They actually believed it, and the stories that have come out of there, I never heard of this before. I'm surprised in all of my reading and stuff like that. I mean, I've heard of many different groups, the Huguenots and stuff like that, but I never heard of these people, or if I did, it didn't impact me, so that I would remember that I had been exposed to this before. You'll have to listen. I'm not going to even attempt to retell what Michael Talbot is sharing, but it is amazing. And that was just one of numerous things that he shared, which, as I'm receiving it and processing it again here this morning, I realize that everything that is in our world, all of our collective unconscious and consensus reality, is a program. It's nothing but a program that we've agreed to operate under. It's an operating system. Okay, it's like Windows or Mac, or it's just an operating system, an OS. It's a software program that made to run human belief systems. And the saying of Henry Ford came to me because it's one that Art Sellers used to use in the workshop all the time. Believe it true, believe it false, and you're right. Doesn't matter which side you take, you're right. Well, does that mean there really is no right or wrong? Well, I disagree that there's no right and wrong. There is right and wrong. When somebody chooses to to take away my free will, that's wrong. If I chose to take somebody else's free will and overrun their choice, not allow them to make their own choice, that's wrong. It's always wrong. Never right. It's never right for someone to victimize someone else against their will. Never. Now, here I go again, using never. That's a real strong conviction of mine. It is an absolute truth. Never is it correct for anyone to overrun someone else's will. Never. You may disagree, but that's solid bedrock, which is why I reacted to the suggestion that I let go of my house, my home. But listening to Michael Talbot and then putting it in the current situation in our world, I'm realizing that, hey, we need to hire some new programmers. Yes, indeed. Somebody else to program the reality that we want to experience. And I believe that is actually what's happening. I do believe many of us are being given the program, the OPPT, not the legal documents or anything else, but the people that are still talking about it, Lisa Harrison and others. That's a programming. They're helping reprogram the way we see things, one of which is to see the elite not as just the powers that were. That's how we used to refer to them, but as part of us, part of the collective. But we're framing it lovingly. Instead of wanting punishment, we're framing it lovingly. And that's what I was doing, actually, yesterday morning before I got interrupted by the first phone conversation and started feeling negative. And as I've said before, I allow the negative. If it's something that I'm aware of, it's mine. Period. It's not somebody else's. It's mine if I claim it as mine, and I claim it all as mine, and I take responsibility for it. And so I was dealing with that, and then I had another phone conversation an hour or two later, as I said, that upset me again, and then I got an email late in the afternoon. I don't remember exactly what time. It was 4 something, I believe. And that further upset me. But then Michael Talbot comes along and says, Ron, he didn't say this to me. I mean, I'm saying this to me. Ron, listen to what he's saying. And weigh that against things that you've heard and that you know. What do you say to yourself? What do you say to your body? What do you say to your being? And all of a sudden, things began to take on meaning again. And this is something that I've been back and forth on, and I'll bet you a lot of you have. Do we create our own reality? And how much of it is consensus reality? A lot to ponder. And I'm encouraging those of you that are willing to think outside the box a little bit to go and listen to Michael Talbot. He's the one that wrote The Holographic Universe. And it's really, really fascinating. And I believe we're being given the opportunity to reprogram ourselves, which will change, I believe, our individual and our collective experience. Are you willing to take on the responsibility for changing the world? Now, before I watched this and before I got the third message yesterday, the idea came to me for next week's program to do a healing program here at the Mary Horgan Center. And I hadn't listened to the holographic universe, didn't know what form it was going to take. After listening last night, I thought, well, that's it. We're going to actually talk about that. We're going to do some healing practices to help reprogram the world. We're going to do that next Wednesday night. I still haven't written the blurb or any announcement. I'm announcing it right now. But we have the opportunity to create a world that works for everyone. And we're going to do some healing work on that, and I'm going to be doing some healing work on me. I'm going to change some of my self-talk. Still embracing the shadow, still embracing what people see me as being negative. I'm still dealing with the politics. I'm dealing with the world as we're experiencing it, the collective reality as we're experiencing it. But I'm going to help reprogram it, and I'm calling on all of you that wish to help reprogram it with me. And we'll be talking more about that in videos to come. Thank you this morning for listening, or whatever time of day it is where you are. I do appreciate that. Again, thank you and namaste.